get 9 at a time. It's more than 9 people.
Well, yeah, today we're definitely more than 9 people, yeah.
But how do we see everybody all at the same time?
Yeah, how do you do that?
You need to make the window smaller.
Click on speaker view. It should be in like the top right corner.
Oh, that's my niece.
Do full screen. Hello, everyone.
Hello, my daddy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, Barbara.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Good. Who's talking at me? I see so many faces.
Barbara's around.
Oh, hey,
Barbara's in the
Barbara.
middle.
Hey. I saw that you were joining. Cool. Nice to see you.
Great. I'm excited to see everybody. Barbara Kay, I don't know if I know you.
Yeah, I'm one of Linda's students, and it's really,
Oh.
I haven't seen her in 5 months, or is it 6 months? Nice to see a face.
I think you've all met Barbara at Master Zhang's 80th birthday party out on Fort, whatever it was, out the Marine coastline.
Yeah, it's a
Hey,
headline.
why doesn't everybody introduce themselves?
Yeah.
Tell us your name and how you're associated.
Terry.
Okay.
Hi.
So maybe I'll start since you were talking about me. My name is Barbara Sapienza, and I started studying with Master Zhang in 1992.
Wow.
And I mostly practiced in Golden Gate Park, first at 36th Avenue in Spreckles Lake, and then at the concourse. So I'm an old timer, and I feel that way for sure. I live in California, and I live near San Francisco. The skies have been covered with an umbrella of weird colors and weird textures and weird smells. So we're all wearing masks and we're sheltering under this big cloud together right now because of the fires. So anyway, but it's so good to be here and to see you all. It's been such a long time. Thank you.
Now, I've asked Sis to host this, so Sis, take it away.
Thank you, Justin.
Sis?
Nice
Here.
to see everyone here. And glad Alice could join us. Didn't mean to leave anybody out. Nice to see everyone here. Fluffy, you're a student of Justin's.
And she was in
Patty's one of
China
our-
and studied with Feng's daughter, and she just graduated as a lawyer and took the bar exam.
Oh my God, congratulations, Buffy. That's exciting.
Thank you so much. I get my
Hey.
results Wednesday, actually. The bar results come out on Wednesday. So
Oh,
I can't wait.
beautiful. You must be nervous.
I am. I was
Oh,
trying to put it in my mind, but
Exciting.
thank you.
Oh,
I believe I
good for
passed.
you. Good for you. That's what
I'll be
matters, right?
Sis,
So, pardon me?
you do it. You do
I'll be
everything.
introducing our
Can't hear you, sis.
Yes. You can't
Sis,
hear me?
Not well.
Well, I don't know why not.
There you go.
Yeah.
I've got
yeah.
speaker on. Okay, good enough. So Connie's here. She's a student of Justin, and she is my Taichi, my Tao sister. Nice of you to join us, Connie.
Thank you.
And Terry, tell us a little bit about you.
Terry, you're talking to me? Terry Beck, I'm in Napa. I've been taking from Linda Brown for, well, I think we started in 2003. Was it that early? Anyway. So yeah, we've had a lot of smoke here as well. And it's still in the air, but it's white now, and we don't have the red skies like we did the other day. Anyway, glad to be here.
Glad everybody is here.
We can't hear you too good.
Lots of women here.
Yeah,
Where are the guys?
I'm
Yeah,
here.
where are all the men? Yeah, they didn't want to.
Jeff is here.
Michael's here.
Michael's here.
Jeff is here.
I think Jim
here.
Diesel's online.
don't know who,
I'm
Kathy,
here,
she,
yes.
who's this?
Are you talking to me?
Is that Jim?
Yes, I'm here.
Which Jim?
Jim Kissel
Jim Kissel.
From Napa.
from Napa.
Hey,
Oh, hi, Jim.
Where's Jim?
Jim.
And there's
Jim.
Kate. So, let's
Hi,
get
Alice.
started.
Katie. Hi there. Hey, Alice.
hey, Alice.
Right, so I'm going to introduce our panel. We have a round table. Can't you see us all sitting at our round table right now? And Xiaofeng started external martial arts in 1988 with Sifu Wan Lamling, and she was studying a Tai Chi praying mantis style, though it's not related to internal Tai Chi at all. And then her teacher told her she needed to study Taiji so that she could learn more of the internal training and advance her martial arts. And so that's how she started studying Chen style and found her way over to Master Zhang, as we all did. She now has her own martial arts school. She has about 10 indoor students and about 20 classroom students. And she primarily is teaching Master Zhang's recent curriculum. And then we have joining us Miss Linda Brown. So she has been studying since 1986 and a student of Master Zhang since 1991 when he arrived. She's launched SCS Global Services, an innovative global leader in the third-party environmental, sustainability, and food quality certification, auditing, testing, and standards. And she's the co-founder of Napa Climate Now, a group devoted to advancing smart climate solutions. So we're awfully proud of Miss Linda there too. Kat, Kroll, wave your hands. And she fell in love with almost 50 years ago.
You all.
She saw cloud. So she has been studying with Master Zhang for over 30 years. And she practices for health, relaxation, and to increase her capacity to feel love and joy and connectedness to Earth and its beings. Alice Bridges, who was in San Francisco Bay Area for a long time. Now she's in Northwestern Michigan. Alice teaches ballet.
Not anymore.
And due to not anymore. But she was a dancer for years and years, monkeying around the world, weren't you? And then the injury led her to studying Feldenkrais, and that led her studying Tai Chi with Master Zhang. She finds the two inseparable and has been with Master Zhang's first class since 1991 when he was teaching with George Shu. So Alice has been with Master Zhang since the beginning. She has taught at cancer centers and heart disease reversal programs with Dean Ornish. And I think Alice will have few stories to tell us from living in the in-laws cubby in the back of the Master Zhang's house. She still studies by Zoom. She teaches by Zoom. She still stays in touch with her San Francisco roots with Malcolm and Jarrett and Michael's Zoom classes. So we'll have words for that. Yeah. Kate, can you tell us a little bit about you? Kate's on our round table.
You're muted.
You're on mute. You have to unmute.
I'm so sorry that I didn't get back to you with a bio. My mother just fell, and so I've been dealing with her injury right now, and she's doing fine. She's 90, so it's a big deal, you know. So, but nevertheless, let's see, what can I tell you? I started with Master Zhang at the beginning when George Shu was there too. That was, gosh, 30 years ago, right? And so I've been with all of you guys, Kat and Linda and Barbara and Alice for a long time. I came to it as a violinist. I'm a violinist, and I was seeking a way to deal with performance anxiety, and my nerves were kind of getting to me, and it was the right time to get to the Tai Chi for the violin. And I never wanted to stop. So I've been with Master Zhang for a very long time. I did teach for Alice at the Cancer Center and at the Millbury Fitness Center. And I teach now, currently in my backyard. I have a couple students that I see here and there. Yeah, I taught for Master Zhang, and I was teaching with Kat until she stopped her class this year.
Well, I started with St. Justin in 1985, and then we began studying with Master Zhang in the early 90s. So I've been teaching since Justin expelled me from class. I wanted to just stay be his student, but he lovingly kicked me out. But I found that I have been able to remain a student. And knowing that all of the classics are written in that poetic code, I have endeavored to search out more deeper meanings and answers, and true to Justin's form, who has always put us in front of excellent information. I am just one foot in front of the other on the path, still studying and still learning. So I have students on Zoom and kind of backyard students. I really like that. But mostly I'm just a hermit on the mountain in Montana. So it's great to see all of you. And
Yes, you're an
why don't we
ordained,
get started?
you're an ordained Taoist priestess, right? You
I
are
am
an
not ordained.
Okay.
I am
What are
not ordained. I am,
Disciple?
I would say level 1. I am a priest under the Wudang teachers that I study with. But ordination has not been offered to any of us yet. It requires about 30 of the Wudang Taoist priests, so maybe someday. But I'm just studying. I'm just on the path. All right, so
Beautiful.
let's see. Linda, can you tell me and tell us all what got you started on the path of Tai Chi and Qigong, and maybe what special challenges you find in teaching women students?
Oh, that's a lot to answer, but I'll answer it. But I just want to say hi to other people on the phone. I haven't said hi to Freddie, who's been a long time student. Hi, Freddie.
Hi, Linda.
And Barbara, I'm so glad you made it at the last minute. And Barbara, Barbara, on my screen, you're on either side of the screen, so I can see you both. And
great.
Terry, thank you for joining. Yay, I'm so glad to see you at last. Terry came to my class the one day I wasn't there, so I was bummed out to miss you in person. And And Jim, who is always there, no matter what, is always present, and thank you. Anyway, how did I get into this? My journey,
wonderful to be here with your.
Oh, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
I'm just so enjoying stories. And I have so many women in mind, but I picked up my teacup here, and I thought, I think about the other stories.
I can't hear her.
Nor I. In any case, so I got into Tai Chi because my business partner, I said in the, can you hear me?
Yes.
In my bio, in my short bio, I helped start a company in 1984. And my partner had been studying Tai Chi and practicing Tai Chi for many years. And he's a very manly, muscular guy who has a big, manly ego. And I watched him doing this beautiful, graceful movement that has so much power in it. And I just was shocked. I didn't have any idea that he had that side of him. And it was so balanced and so grounded compared to anything I'd ever seen in this man before. And I asked him, what are you doing? And he told me he was doing Tai Chi, and I had never seen it before. I wasn't exposed to it. Having come in from Atlanta, Georgia, it wasn't something that was happening. And so I said, whatever you're doing, I want some of that. And I found a teacher within a few months who, thank goodness, his name was Joe Deischer, taught an integrated Tai Chi form. And through Joe, I met Kat, who went by another name at the time, Savitri. And Savitri had the most wonderful presence. And when she left the class and found George Shu in the city, she told me to come along and meet George. And this was 6 or 7 years after I'd started with Joe. So I met George and started taking classes with him. And shortly after I started taking classes with George, Master Zhang showed up. And it was amazing because Zhang projected such a love for his teaching and a love for his students. And he could say my name, Linda. He'd say Linda, Oakland Linda. He could pronounce it. And so because he could pronounce my name early, he attached himself to me in some funny way too. And I just thought, oh my God, I love this guy. You know, he's reaching out to me personally. It was probably just because he could pronounce my name. But in any case, he didn't know any English at the time, and I certainly didn't know any Mandarin, and I still know very, very little. But I just found his teaching style to be so remarkable and so giving and so holistic that I fell in love with what he was teaching and followed him as he left George's class to start his own work. So I know that many of you, Kat and Alice and others, had that similar journey at that time. But I'd like to pause and let other people answer the question of journey, because the issue of challenges teaching women is a whole other topic, sis. So if you don't mind, I'd like to defer that part of the question to later.
What was it like for you guys to study with Master Zhang?
He was 60 years old. He was in his
Young.
prime moment of, you know, powerful, you're going to learn this. He taught us a move a week, was it? We were learning the 48. Man, you come to class, you better learn. You better be right on it. He was teaching Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you just better come to class because you didn't want to miss a thing. And that's what it was like. It was intense, powerful. We were 30 years old. You know, many of us 30 to 40. You know, it was a different time of life, and we were already very receptive to what he had to offer. So, anyway, it was amazing.
Xiaofan, tell us about your journey into Tai Chi and Qigong.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, mostly is from my first external Gong Fu master, who is Lam Ling Wang Shifu. after a year and a half also after studied Gong Fu, he just went straight out, said I needed to train start internal training in order to advance external form. And I had no idea at the time. My first shifu was actually trained with Master Zhang in 1988. But in any case, that's where my first shifu started me out. And that's, I think I started in 89, that's simultaneously with internal and external, but it's more geared towards internal intensively. And until today, I continue place Qigong exercise as my top priority of my overall Taiji training, including teaching my classes. It's always the top priority.
Thank you. Kate, how did you step onto the path of Tai Chi and Qigong?
You're muted. Kate, you're muted. Unmute.
There you go again. Sorry about that. I just think it's so great to see all of you. It's so wonderful. So nice. I was very much into the Tao Te Ching, lots of poetry in high school, and I just read it nonstop. I loved it. I would always come back to it and the 10,000 things. And I studied a little Feldenkrais in my college years and some Alexander technique. I mean, I studied with teachers, and then I knew at some point I was going to do Tai Chi. I did some yoga, and I just knew that whatever I did, it had to be moving. I was always drawn to dance and physicality, and I did some gymnastics. So I always wanted to move, and I felt like yoga was very stationary. And so I was friends with Alice, and she said, you got to check out this guy. He's amazing. He's an amazing teacher. Come to class. So I did that, and that's how I got into it. And I just never stopped. I was there, like Linda said, just every day that he was there. And they split apart, George and Master Zhang, they split at one point in the early, I think January 91. And that was when I decided to stick with Master Zhang.
Okay. 47 years ago, I was in Hawaii in the government cabins, and I saw my friend Judith doing this weird thing. And I think I was probably stoned, and it was so gorgeous. And the teacher, I was living in Point Arena, Mendocino County, and the teacher was there, and I started classes. This was 47 years ago. So I started classes, and in 6 months, my friend Judy had learned the whole form. 2.5 years later, everyone in the class had quit, and I finally learned the form. So he must have thought I was a failure, but here I am still doing it. So I practiced for 18 years and in Mendocino, and for 6 years without a teacher, doing it myself. And I highly recommend practicing without a teacher because I learned so much. It became mine. It wasn't a teacher's anymore. So I valued that. I came to San Francisco, continued with my teacher, Joe Deischer, who was a beautiful guy that Linda studied with too. And somehow I was studying the fans form with some seniors on Spreckles Lake, and I saw this other class. And they were kind of rude because I was there, and I started following them. And one of the guys said, "What are you doing here? You're not in this class." I didn't realize it was so special. So anyway, I hung in there, and I'm with George for a while. Then Master Zhang came, and he looked at me and he said, "You have no inside." I said, "What? I've been studying 18 years, right?" And my teacher said, "The inside will come, the inside will come." And 18 years later, this guy says, "You have no inside." And he immediately showed me the Dan Chen movement. And I was blown away. I thought, well, oh my God, I have to do this. And I really had a lesson in beginner's mind, because after you've been studying 18 years and practicing on your own and think you know something and find you know nothing, it's a big shock. So I started with Master Zhang, and of course, he was beautiful. I remember him waiting for parking spaces. He'd stand in a parking space so his student would have it. I mean, he was so generous and so generous with his teaching. He was, anyway, and I guess we'll get to Mrs. Zhang, but I guess her name is not Mrs. Zhang. Her name is Li Zong Lian. She never became a Zhang. She was always a Li, and she asked me to call her Zong Lian. She says, I'm an American woman and I want an American name. So I guess Zong Lian is kind of an American name more than Shimu. And anyway, I guess I'll, oh, I'm very proud of the fact I have practiced almost every day since my first class. At first, because I was so afraid I'd forget it. And I didn't want to go over the same thing the next class. And then later, it just got to be an addiction, and it feels so good. And I think I suffered depression when I was in my youth, and Tai Chi was the only time during the day I knew I would feel good. So anyway, I had lots of reasons to continue practicing, and I love it. It fits in with enjoying nature and feeling spiritually connected to the trees and the animals. We've all had the experience of animals stopping to watch us, blue cranes and deer and what are kitties, you know. So I guess that's my journey, and I'll turn this over to the next person.
Hey, Kat, though, weren't you the one who convinced Master Zhang to start taking women disciples?
Ah,
That will
well,
come later.
I was
That comes
noticed
later.
that all the disciples were men, and I thought I didn't want a disciple. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, but religion to me, I don't like it. And it felt like, you know, a hierarchy, which I don't like. But then I said, my God, he's going to retire, and all these guys are going to lord it over me. They're going to boss me around. They're going to be the disciples. This is horrible. So I asked, it was probably Michael, because he was translated a lot. I said, how come there are no women disciples? And he asked Master Zhang. And Master Zhang said, no women have asked. So I said, aha. So I asked Master Zhang if I could be a disciple. He said, you don't need to bother. I said, no, I want to be a disciple. He said, okay. So I said to Linda and Cheryl and Alice and, you know, hey, Barbara, come on, let's, you know, talk to him. And so we got a bunch of women disciples. Oh, and Alice,
Thanks,
forgot about
Justin.
that. Sorry, Alice, darling.
Answering that question, but thank you anyway. Hey,
What?
Alice, good to have you coming in from Michigan. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what's especially important to you. You're muted.
You're muted.
Who are you talking to?
That's a big question.
Hello?
Alice.
Can you
Alice is talking.
can you ask again what the question was?
How
Oh,
did you
how I got
find
started. How to get started? I was riding my bicycle past Crystal's Lake. And no, I was looking for a Tai Chi class because I had just done a training. I had retired from dancing, and I was going down the therapeutic path. I'd just done a training in movement therapy, and the teacher there, part of our training in the movement therapy classes was to learn a very basic Yang style set. And at the end of our training, the teacher said, if you want to continue really learning efficient movement for human beings, study Tai Chi. And so I was looking for a class. And I was riding my bicycle past Spreckles Lake. It was Spreckles Lake, right? One day, and it was George Shu's class, and everybody was sitting in the horse stance. And I stood there and watched it for a long time. And then I approached him and said, may I join the class? And he said, no, next week. He said, next week, someone come from China and he look into the distance and he can see the chi and he brings it into him. So you come next week. So I came next week, and that was Master Zhang's first class. And he kept saying to me, I'm so sorry, I don't speak English. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know Tai Chi. So that was my intro into the Tai Chi world, and I never left it. I found it so the opposite of the ballet form, which is about leaving the ground and flying. Tai Chi was about, you're not leaving the ground, they are. So I just found it fascinating to play with those two different energies of being elevated and being grounded. And then the other question you asked me was, what is important about it? What was the other question that you asked?
What's become the most important thing about it?
The most important thing?
I
could not tease that out. It's the relation to the environment. It's the relation to the self. It's the awareness. It's the self-awareness. It's the awareness of the environment. And I have to say that everyone who has come through the doorway of Tai Chi has been a treasure to me. Every good thing that has come to me since I started Tai Chi has come through the doorway of Tai Chi in some way. The people I have met, the places I've gone, it's all come through that doorway, because I find the Tai Chi practice to be so honest. And you can get attracted to people. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Xiaofan, you've been teaching the martial arts, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've had and the differences and maybe some of the similarities of teaching men and women. And then I'd like to have our panel chime in on this as well.
You're muted. Unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the question and the reminder about muting. Personally, I'm gender blind when it comes to teaching. And to me, it is more important to provide adequate instructions based on one's physical condition and understanding of why they want to study Tai Chi. And having said that, I can't ignore there are physical differences between males and females. For example, everybody here understands that when we place our hands in front of our dantian, when we do our standing breathing, there's a difference in terms of which hand goes first between males and females. So there are some technical aspects of that differences that we will not ignore. And secondly, just generally speaking, men just seems to have more opportunities to engage in more physical activities, such play football, for example. So there's some degree of aggression that is slightly different from female students that we encountered. And now, many of my own male students usually had already studied many years, and some of them many decades of martial arts before they came join and study with us. So from that point of view, yes, they seems to be more experienced. That's how I would propose is more experienced practitioners versus less experienced instead of gender differences. And I just had my first female students about 5 years ago came to class who had no previous martial arts experience. So I will consider her as less experienced practitioner instead of gender differences. And so, for example, when they come together to practice application, my suggestion and teaching style usually is gently tell more experienced practitioners just take it easy when they practice with less experienced individuals. And that usually it's, after all, you know, the common we are and less physical or muscular we are when we do application. And that is actually better we can train our listening ability and utilize the techniques we learn from Master John during application. So that's my take on that point.
Thank you. Linda, do you have something you want to add to that?
Sure. I asked my students this question before I signed up to be on this panel because I wanted to know, particularly my women students who I'm currently teaching during COVID in a live class in the park. And we keep our distance, and people who feel, need, we do all the things we need to do for everyone to feel safe. But I wanted to ask them, what have they taken away? And the things that we talked about are, well, I agree with what I just heard from Xiaofan about, I want to teach the same material to both men and women, and I certainly don't want to change that. The approach sometimes is different. So I'm going to demonstrate when we do this, and then we put our hands on our nipples. Well, women in this culture, as you all know from your own experiences, are very shy about that in public, in a public place. It's not something we're comfortable doing. It's culturally completely inappropriate in the United States, but it's something we need to talk through. Why is this something that we're doing? So men, it's like, I don't even have to wear a shirt, so who cares? But women, it's really an issue. Likewise, when we lift from here, well, women think of that as well. I'm throwing my breasts out into the world, and that's really not something I'm supposed to do at all. So women tend to have this kind of cowering or inward holding. And speaking to that and allowing my women students to feel confident and comfortable standing upright and being themselves and being completely fine with that. That's something that comes up in classes. And I think for men teachers, I'm sure that you've run into this too, and it may be a subject that's difficult to talk about with your women students, but it's a very important thing to provide women students with the confidence that they can stand upright, have the alignment. So speaking to it from the point of alignment is a good way to address the issue without it becoming, and speaking anatomically about how we're doing this, which is something that Zhang and Zhang's translators, thank you, Michael, and Brian is not here, and others who have translated over the years, his languaging around this has been extremely informative about how can we talk about this in a way that gives the women students the sense that this is okay to do. I think that as we already heard, that women are uncomfortable in some situations with push hands because contact hasn't been emphasized, especially where there's aggressive contact, and to the extent that this is a martial art, that can be very intimidating. And so I really want to, when we get together in push hands settings, reinforce gentleness and awareness of the partner, again, which is straight from Master Zhang. I certainly didn't invent any of my thinking about this, but I observed what worked for him, and that felt right, to be always aware of the partner, and to communicate between one another so that women can be comfortable who might not be. And that's not to say everyone, I'm a tomboy, I always was, I know a few of the other people on the call have said that about themselves. And so for me, it's like, okay, whatever, just tell me what to do. But the last thing that my students brought up to me, and then I'll pass the baton, was the issue of criticism. The way that some of women want to hear criticism might be different than the way that men would expect to hear from a martial arts teacher. Master Zhang was very kind, and he said, "Ooh, 90%, 90%, 100%. You keep, KEEP, keep." And when he gave you something that you actually got it right, but he made you feel so good when he said those 4 letters, KEEP. And, he just had a way of not being like, sometimes you see him shake his head and roll his eyes, but he always did it gently with a smile. He never was like, "You're a bad student," or, "You're not learning anything," or "You can't learn this." It always felt like an encouragement. So I think that women in particular that I've taught have given me that feedback, that it's very valuable to have feedback in a way that isn't hurtful. And in my classes, the first rule of my classes is the one I learned from Master Zhang, which is, we're here, first thing is to relax. And to me, I translate that for a lot of people who live in this very busy, full culture as relax and be kind to yourself and don't stress out. You're not here in Tai Chi to stress out. And if something is stressing you out, something's wrong with the way I'm teaching it. So that's what I wanted to say about my observations.
Great.
I have something I'd love to say. Can I say something quick?
Could I say something too?
Sure.
Go ahead, Kat.
Yes.
Okay, it has to do with putting your hands on your breast. And I think because it's so weird and we're so afraid and so unused to do it, that you can put your hands on your breast and feel the nipples and the bubbling spring of the nipples and not actually feel your breast. You want to feel the tissue. You want to feel the nipples. You want to feel the breast tissue beneath it. Feel it, the chi filling all the way from your heart center through your breast to your nipples. And I think giving this kind of awareness and love to your breast is probably really good for breast health. That's it.
Great. That's nice. I just wanted to follow up. Oh, go ahead. Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on Linda's comment about Master Zhang, because when I first rode my bike like Alice to Spreckles Lake and saw these swans at the edge of the lake doing these beautiful grounded movements, I was so impressed. I got off my bike and I sat and watched, and Kat came over and said, "Hi." And I said, "What are you doing?" So it's the same story. But what's different is when I first met Master Zhang and George, they really checked out my body. And the first thing that Master Zhang told me, Linda, was body no good. But he said it in a way that also he had 2 things. He had the ability to be straight up, and he had this kindness. And so I had to hold both of them, because here I am, I don't know him. He checks me out by opening chest. There was one other thing he did, open, close chest. And what he was doing was he was telling me that my chi at that moment in my life in 1991 or 1992 was stagnant. And I must have known that that's why I was going to take this class for all these years, that my chi was stagnant. And he had a kind of honesty that he coupled with a very kind generosity. And I always felt that it was a teaching about how do we hold the paradox. Because I used to say to my friends in the class, "God, I'm not going to go to a class. My father used to tell me that." Or, some male figure might say, "No good, you didn't get an A," or something. But there was just a way that he could say it, that I could hold it and come back 5 or 6 times a week for all those years that he offered it. So I just wanted to put in that he was all of that, because he was a little trickster, and he was a little he was always kind, but he would say things that would like teach us, hold that too, you know. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Wonderful, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you. Kate, do you have a specific addition to talking about teaching women versus teaching men, or do you have anything you want to add to that, or does anybody else? Be sure to unmute yourself.
Okay. I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and it's really a testament to what an amazing person Zhang is. He was very gentle. The first thing he'd say to me was, man, slowly, comfortable, because I just was not comfortable in my body, you know. And that was all he said. But it was those first words of reading so directly, and the gentleness and kindness with which he delivered that so-called criticism or observation, that I felt really seen, and I felt like this guy knows, he's got it. He knows, he can see what I need to heal, because this is, in a way, this is all about healing.
Yeah.
I personally don't find a huge difference between teaching male or female. I've been teaching violin, I don't know, 45 years. It's a long time. Or 35 years. And it's something that I apply to every student. And I bring whatever I've learned from Master Zhang into my teaching of violin. And so they are kind of one and the same, always. And, I don't know that I really feel a difference between the teaching of men and women. Yeah. I have noticed reactions, again, to the hands on the nipples kind of thing in public. I've noticed and seen that many times where there's been a shyness, or, you know, but I feel that when I've kept up with my own teaching and just shown them sort of almost just in a physical way without actually saying it, this is what I do, and this is what I'm doing in public, and I feel comfortable with it. It seems like that starts to melt away, you know, a little inner smile and bringing the chi in, you know, becomes less of a academic thing and more of just a go inside and feel what's going on, look, search. Yeah.
Especially when you can explain to people that, you know, the nipples, which is what feeds the newborns and the babies, is connecting to every acupuncture point, every meridian. And so there's deep, deep meaning and deep work in this. And it has nothing to do with male or female. And so I think the consensus here is that, you know, we are, and I loved Xiaofun's term, gender blind. So I've always taught the exact same way. And I find that sometimes I may utilize a little bit of humor, and it just sort of makes the uncomfortableness melt away from men as well as women. So thank you for that. Anybody else have anything you want to add? Cheryl?
Can you hear me, sis?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is the first time I've used this contraption. Let's see, actually, I didn't do anything about biographically. What I would just like to add in a couple words there, and that is that my first teacher was actually in 1976. I was doing a graduate study in dance in Temple University, but I heard about Maggie Newman, who was teaching Yang style. So I went to this great wooden floor studio, and she just was so inspiring and so deep and so heartfelt. So that was my first introduction to Tai Chi, and then I continued through dance for the next decade and a half. But when my dance teacher retired, and someone directed me to George Shu's class, so I was so grateful to meet him, and then Master Zhang, I just knew I was in the right place. There was no question. I just want to say that the thing that I value most is, and all of it, just the community, but endlessly watching his teaching style and the thrill of doing the movement and applying my dance training, Pilates, Laban, movement analysis, and just it all comes together in such a nice way. And as much as I like dance, I love Tai Chi beyond anything else. But the most important part of it is to find that deep stillness. My nature doesn't go there easily. I yearn for that, but I tend to be very sensitive about electromagnetic radiation and, emotionally and stuff. And it's really hard to settle down. But to the times of sitting and doing the meditation with Master Zhang on the bench, and him giving our guidance about, turning the mind and the thoughts and this listening down to the Dantian. And anyway, I won't go through the whole description, but I can just remember so clearly those moments. Those are just real gold. I will always treasure that. And when I meditate very many times, I just flash onto that time of sitting next to him and doing the meditations, and next to him and all of us as a group. Because the energy that we generated together was just really beautiful.
Yeah.
As far as teaching men or women, I think that there are things that could be said more in terms of the way a woman can practice. I think maybe Master Zhang, when I asked him about it, what I heard more was, we practice the same. I was wondering, well, should the middle Dantian be in the heart instead of the navel center? He said, no, lower Dantian, middle Dantian at the navel. He said, but the expression may be different, that the heart may be more active in a woman's demonstration of the form. But he didn't really I didn't hear instructions about how to function differently than the guidance he'd given us, besides the hands and the direction of the circles. So just so grateful for our journeys. We're so just great fortune.
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
We truly are. So, I don't know why I started Tai Chi. It was, 2x4 up the side of the head. I heard about it, and I had no idea what it was. And at the time, I was so shy, I wasn't able to go out and search for a class. So I had an undergrad student working for me, and he brought me a flyer from St. Louis University on, one of those telephone poles with 500 other flyers on it. And he said, is this what you're talking about? And so, there was something very much bigger than me. I had to do it. I didn't know what it was. I knew I had to have it. So, and I love the martial aspect of it. But, I find that it is, a deeply personal journey and a spiritual journey. The more I always read the Tao Te Ching and the classics, and it's like, well, I'm a natural Taoist. It's a good fit for me. So I thank Justin for introducing me to the martial. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was the only woman student for a long time, all other men, and it just never bothered me. But, as we talked earlier, a lot of us are tomboys, and I see people just as people. I don't necessarily see them for whatever color they are or for whatever gender they are. So, for me, Tai Chi is absolutely a spiritual practice now. And I don't know what else to say about that. It's, everybody has their personal journey
Yeah.
in that.
Well, that's beautiful. And I agree with you, Sis, about that. And Kat mentioned it, and the rest of us have mentioned it too in a certain way, that it is such a way of connecting to nature and to the spirit world and to ourselves that brings us that feeling of being connected and being sort of empty and free. And it's just a really beautiful combination of that. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to add is that I don't think we could arrive at that experience without the community effort that it takes. The way Master Zhang made us into such a family by nurturing each one of us, like, you're all my seeds, he used to say. I don't know which one of you is going to grow. And he poured it into the beginners. That was where he put his greatest effort, was into the new blood.
Yes.
We're family. It goes on and on. That connectedness, it's part of the feeling that my practice is part of your practice. It's a gift to each other to practice.
Well, and we are all just one thing. So Michigan, California, Montana, Missouri, wherever we are, whatever, we are practicing, we are connecting with one another. And that's a very palpable thing. And Zoom, we knew that Zoom would become such a popular medium, but it has. It's kept us connected. Anybody have any questions? Fluffy, do you have any questions?
Oh, let me wait, my video. Hi. Let me think. I just feel honored to be here and be listening and learning from you guys. And I just want you to know that the legacy will live on as long as I'm around.
Yay.
And it's really encouraging to know that we're all over the nation and that everyone is still so passionate about their art. So I guess my question would be, do each of you practice every day, and do you do your entire form 3 or 5 times when you can, or what does your daily practice look like at this point?
That's a great question. But you're like our youngster here on the call. So I just wanted to just emphasize one thing about women's practice over men's practice, and that is when you're having your menses, you want to practice with a very light attitude and a very high stance, and just practice like 20% of your intention, because that will change. This is the primary time when we are leaking qi. And so we're losing qi anyway, because blood and qi. And so it's important just to have a very soft practice. Xiaofen, you could probably speak to that too, because of doing hard style martial arts and deep stances. But that's really all. It doesn't mean to stop practice, although I posed this question to a Taoist nun up on Mount Huashan, and the translator was not happy to have to ask deeply intimate female questions, but we made him ask anyway.
Good.
And to the best of my knowledge, what she said was, a week before and a week after, but that can't be right, because we'd only be practicing a month. And so the real answer is to have a very light, very soft, and a very high stance, and just to keep practicing every day. Yeah. So my day starts with Dao Yin. You know, I start about 5:30 in the morning. And Dao Yin is not correctly, it's commonly called Taoist yoga, but it's not Taoist yoga because it's moving the meridians. And that's the reason to do that, those types of warm-up exercises, is to get the blood and the qi moving in the muscle tissues and in the tendons. And then follow that with Qigong, and then follow that with Tai Chi. So, you know, sometimes an hour and a half or two.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share their daily practice?
I'll share my daily practice. I wake up and I do a meditation, or if I can get myself out, I sit in a chair and I do about an hour of Sufi meditation. Then I go to the park and I do 15 minutes of head, neck, shoulder exercise. Then I do a 45 to 55 minute 83, and then I do Wild Goose Qigong. So I feel like I'm cheating because Wild Goose Qigong is real beautiful, and like Tai Chi, it's lyrical. So I know a lot of people, I always think I could do more spiral power, but I always feel the form has everything in it. And I've always practiced the form, and that's what whatever practice, when I did the Yang form, I always practice that every day, and now I practice the Chen style that we learned. And I think that I feel like it's cheating not to do more basics, but it seems to have worked for me. So I just want to say, if you want to do mostly just the form, it's kept me healthy. So if I want to be cheating, I am, but that's just for information.
Tai Chi is the highest form of Qigong.
Thank you for that.
Thank you both. Thank you so much.
What do you do, Fluffy?
Yeah, tell us.
What's your practice now?
Well, Sifu and I have begun the Chinese straight sword form. So when I got the opportunity to travel to Beijing last summer, I studied at a law school there for like a month, and I got to do a private class with Master Zhang's daughter. And we went over just the 24 form. That's what I'm most comfortable with. That's what I can do start to finish. I know the 48, technically I can explain it to you, but whenever I get in front of Sifu Justin, I always get nervous and mess up. But that's what I'm more comfortable with, is the 24. So that's the one that I know front and back. And but I'll be honest, this summer during bar prep, I was not doing my practice every day, but before that I was, and I should have stuck to it because it really keeps my stress level much lower.
So that was good to know. So that's the way to keep the stress level lower.
Yeah, but I love the sword so much. And me and Sifu Justin always talk about how women look just so beautiful with a sword and that expression and going through those movements. So that's what I love. I haven't been to a competition in a couple of years, but I would love to get back into that. I mean, after COVID, once we can all reunite, that's something that I'm looking forward to, definitely.
Great, thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Anybody else want to share their daily practice?
Yes, please. I'd love to hear more what you guys do on the daily.
My daily practice is I do mostly spiral power. I love spiral power. I do it slowly. I do it for about an hour. And I really miss the group because I always had trouble. I don't know if lots of people say, well, you just didn't do it enough on your own. But I always had trouble, almost like I have a dyslexia for certain moves, or it's a physical memory thing. but I can never remember a form, and it's really best for me to do it in a group for that reason. But the spiral power and the Qigong, somehow, because there are no transitions, I can memorize that and I can do that. And so that's what I do. And on Saturday mornings, Kat gives a class, which is very lovely. She does it for more than 2 hours every Saturday morning on Zoom. And her voice and her stories and her wisdom are very lovely. And so that's the class that I've been going to. And we do a little bit of the 24. And so, yeah, so that's my story about practice.
Well, I'd like to end with a few stories of Master Zhang or Shimu. Raise your hand if there's a story you'd like to share. Okay, Linda. Okay, start with Linda.
Alice, you're getting very dark. Is it getting dark outside?
Yeah.
Yes. You're muted. Alice, you're muted.
Yes, I'm 3 hours ahead of you guys. So
right.
I'm actually gonna move this inside now.
Okay. So there's so much to say, and I did want to comment on one other question I wanted to bring back. How much time do we have?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure we could have as much as we need, but I was going to keep it under an hour and a half. So we're at an hour now.
Okay. So I do hope we get back to a question that you asked us when you were organizing, which is what's the level of importance of the martial versus the health versus, you know, the spiritual. And I think that's a really interesting question. But I want to tell a couple quick stories about Master Zhang. There's so many to tell. I mean, we all have a million stories, and I don't want to bore anyone. But these are kind of out of the, you know, the normal stories about, you know, like, he didn't want to throw me because I was a woman. He didn't want to, you know, demonstrate on me, and I wanted him to demonstrate on me because I realized unless I felt that I was missing a lot of the teaching, I wanted to feel what that felt like. So I had to convince him that he could practice on me and show me. And I think that once he was convinced that I wasn't going to break, I think that was instrumental in him opening up to making that available to other women students as well. I don't know if I was the first one, but I really pushed him. And he responded in, you know, the way I had hoped that he would. You know, if I was present, available to it, he was ready to provide it. And he always made sure there was grass underneath me when he was going to throw me. And as you've all heard, as you've all worked with him, he would say, "You lay down now, you lay down now." He would tell you while he's laughing and smiling, how he's going to, and then he just applies the lightest pressure, and before you know it, you're laying down. But
lie down.
the other story I really wanted to share, well, couple I wanted to share. I'll go quick. He always was bummed out that I had cold hands. Your hands cold. I anxious. I don't understand why your hands cold. And you know, they would warm up. I'm like a reptile. They would warm up when I was when it was hot out, and they would.
You never wore any clothes. That was the problem.
I don't know. I wore clothes, not as many as he did, for sure. But I told, you know, I think that a lot of women have this issue, and I wanted to bring it up in the context of a lot of women have cold hands, and that's an important thing that we have to see if we can work with. But I told him that I had hepatitis C, and that I was working through that, and you know, I didn't know for a long time, but started working with him, as I said, in 1991, but I was diagnosed in 1998, but I'd had it since 1979. And it was too early to get a treatment. It was 10 years out still until I could get treated, but 12 years out, really. So for the next 12 years, he worked with me. And I think this is important. He was not just a teacher of Tai Chi martial arts. He was a teacher on a real spiritual and health health support practice. So he would say to me, I give you energy. And he would point to his, his palms, the point of emitted energy, and he would put them on me. He would put his hands on me, like on my stomach and on my back. And he would say, I give you energy. And he would stand there for a few minutes every time I went to a private lesson with him and give me energy. And at the end of a minute or two, he would take his hands away and they would be cold. And you never found Master Zhang's hands to be cold, except when he was treating someone, actually providing a health service and giving his energy to me. And as a student, it was remarkable to me to receive that energy from him. And I'm confident that for the 12 years before I could get treated, that it was my Tai Chi practice and his support that kept me healthy. And I never had any symptoms of this disease, even though I went into a pretty dark place with my liver and never had a symptom. And when I got treated, then it was over and I was cured. But I give him a lot of credit for both instilling the confidence that I could maintain my health with my practice, and that he reinforced that by actually providing literal hands-on support. So I think that is an important story. It speaks to his real caring about his students. Very authentic, and his authenticness as a healer. And then one funny quick story. I was Oakland Linda, and he knew I would come from work to my private lessons, and I had never had time to eat. And so Mrs. Zhang would always make me food, and she wanted to feed me. And I was a vegetarian, so there wasn't a lot she could feed me, but she would make dumplings. So she'd come out with this huge plate of dumplings. I would sit down with Master Zhang and we would eat dinner together. And if I didn't eat every dumpling on that plate, I was going to be in bad trouble. So anyway, that was just fun. But I didn't ever wanted to eat it all, and I kept trying to give it to him. No, you eat. So I had to eat all my dumplings before he would teach me.
That's funny.
I know that story personally. Kate, you had your hand raised?
Just a couple things. I mean, Master Zhang knew I was a violinist, so he'd say, "Oh, violin hands, very careful. Be careful. You know, don't break hands." Evidently, he had actually broken somebody's wrist. I had heard before I came. I don't know when that was, but when he was sparring, not sparring, but he was demonstrating, I guess. And but I always wanted to know. I was kind of like Linda, I want to know what's the application, And I was in a private lesson once, and I said, "What's the application? It's this one where you come down like this, right?" And he said, I show you. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what I was in for, but he just did not hold back. Boom. And I was on the ground, and I come up with a tear in my eye. Oh my God, that hurt, And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, he was just so compassionate. That was, and I never forgot that application, and I never forgot actually how powerful those applications can be if I do ask him, So there were moments when I'd say, okay, I'm not going to do this one because it has to do with my hands or whatever. But another thing that I wanted to say was amazing about Master Zhang's teaching was that he was extremely patient. And when he wasn't patient, he would let me know. And he would say, "Oh, I'm not patient." And I would be so thankful, because in all my training in music, there was a lot of impatience and a lot of, competition. And the teachers would be like, "You've got to do this, this, and this, and this, and it's got to be out there," and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure Alice can relate to that with the dance and etc. But this particular element in a teacher being able to admit instantly. I mean, it wasn't like he'd come back the next day and say, oh, I was too impatient with you. He would say it right away. Oh, I am patient. I'll try again, this kind of thing. The patience level and the love and healing energy that was coming out of that teacher was amazing for me. That's hands down the best teaching yeah.
Xiaofeng, Xiaofeng, you have a story?
Yes, I do love to share one of my encounters with Master John. Well, one time when Jeff and I visited Shifu at his San Francisco house, and he showed us pictures of his first visit to San Francisco Bay Area in 1988, and asked us if I know anybody in the photos. And I told him, yes, we do know some of the people in the photos. In fact, that's because those were my first Shifu's students, and at the time I was already training, so those were my martial arts brothers. So I identified a few of them, and then when Shifu John realized that I was already practicing martial arts in 1988, then at that moment we were sitting down, and he held my hands and looked into my eyes, said, I really wish we've met earlier. And I was so moved that my eyes were moist, and I still choke up. And when I talk about this, I was so saddened, because what he said implied that he wanted to train me, and yet time wasn't on his side. So often during private sessions with him, if I didn't get it right at the first try, he would say, I'm worried sick, time is not on my side. And I'm such a latecomer compared to many of the senior members there that you've been trained with him for a long time, where I was only became 24th disciple on 2015. And so I was a very latecomer, join in and train with him. And then when he said he was worried sick, time wasn't on his side, I was just so sad. Then a lot of time at the end of sessions, he would encourage me and say, be patient, keep searching. I know you will find it. And that has been, those words, it's been my heart it's going to be forever. I always remember every time I practice, including I telling my students, practice, keep searching. I can only provide you guidance. You will be the one to find it. And that was his words for me. And I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you, Xiaofeng.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Before we get maybe one last story, I know that Barbara sent a chat question about interested in how we might join each other's Zoom classes. So perhaps you can send that information to Michael and he can post it to the group. Does that answer your question, Barbara?
Yeah, that would be great. I'd been up in Napa doing Linda's group, but I've retired. So even aside from COVID, it's not easy for me to find something. And it's hard for me to get the structure to do it on my own. So I'd really love to be in a class. Zoom for now, but live for later. That might be closer to home. I'm in Berkeley, Albany.
Yeah. We'll get that information out and have Michael collate it. So
that'd be great.
Why don't we wrap this up with maybe one last story that who hasn't spoken yet and who maybe has a story? Yeah.
Just another note in relation to posting of classes. I have not been able to join Michael's class either. So if that information could be made available.
Okay.
Is Michael here?
Cheryl? He's seems to be here, but I'll make sure he gets this information. Yeah. Anybody have a story? Last story? Kat?
Okay, this is diverging, but I think this is one of the most important things in my practice. It says in ancient China, the Taoists taught a constant inner smile to oneself ensures health, happiness, and longevity. It's like basking in love, become your own best friend. Living with an inner smile is to live in harmony with yourself. Well, smiling isn't just, it's relaxing your mouth from the center to the corners. If you can feel the corners of your mouth, if you can feel your lips, you'll have this smile all the time. And this is really hard because we practice, it's called mouth yoga to some people. This is really hard because we practice, we care so much that we're doing it right. And if we keep this amount of smile, it feeds all our organs. And I think during the day when you walk down the street, if you can relax your mouth, because the tendency is to tense it slightly, to be suspicious. So I just want us to share that smiling and the inner smile is something that can be practiced and can enjoy and you can share, and giving a smile to someone is one of the best gifts you can give.
Difficult nowadays.
Yeah, I just feel compelled to just acknowledge the incredible power of Taoist teachings. I've been able to do some studying now with a little more time, but the upper lips and the lower lips. It's when I first came upon with Stephen Chang's book, the Tao of Sexology, I think it was called, and to hear his description of the 9 layers of orgasmic experience, it was like, yes. After years of, this so-called sexual revolution and really not feeling that I was getting a good deal out of this whole situation, because it's still very dominated by the male perception and pornography and the incredible commercialization of women's bodies in this culture. Having the Taoist wisdom available there to encourage us to be fully present in this wonderful pelvis that we have, and to be able to be relaxed there, and to be able to honor that experience so much, and not to conform to anybody's expectations other than what is our own real true experience. And I think that getting that then allows the other side of the spine to be more erect and to be calmer. But I really am grateful for our practice and what it does give us as women to inform our just the body. I mean, a lot of us have done it through movement in other ways too, but this practice really has given us space to be in ways that a lot of the rest of our culture does not invite and encourage.
That's true.
Yeah.
Barbara, you had one last thing to talk about?
I just wanted to say that I was so happy one day that I had a dream of Master Zhang, and it was really beautiful. I saw him in the dream, and we're talking about him now, and I think his spirit is with us. And in the dream, it was a beautiful dream. I was doing Tai Chi and he was watching me. And he was a true benefactor. And I was on outdoors. It was an outdoor Tai Chi. We always did Tai Chi outdoors. And I was in the trees and I looked down and he was there. And he had the most beautiful smile. And he was just blessing me in a certain way to be all I could be and to do this beautiful thing, and that he was with me in a certain way. And so I just wanted to share that because it was beautiful. And I told you the story about the first thing he said to me was body no good. So I guess this was kind of a really a turning in a certain way. And it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think of the going to his garage for privates and the state I would go in, and then the way I would leave afterwards. It was just such a transformational process.
Yeah.
Every time, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final words from anyone?
Speaking of transformation, that's Barbara. You reminded me of a dream I had. When I first started taking Tai Chi from Master Zhang, I dreamed that I was in a supermarket and I was at the checkout stand, and Master Zhang was the person who was checking me out. and then I paid for my purchases, and he handed me back money and he said, "Here's your change."
Oh, that's great.
Wow. Yeah, that reminds me of a story of Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. So Buddhist is like the Walmart. So we have something for everyone. And Confucianism is like a tailor. I've got something that will fit just you. Exactly. And Taoism is like an antique store full of antiques. And someone comes in and they're looking around, and if they have to ask the price, then it's probably too expensive for them. But if they're Taoism and Tai Chi, if you're really interested, then the shop owner just gives it to you. It's free.
Beautiful.
You got all the change back from your grocery shopping. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, well, I want to thank Justin and Michael for birthing this HunYuan forum and for giving the ladies an opportunity to chat and talk about the things that are important to them. Tai Chi is, it's a way of life, every day. Fluffy, if you do it every day, your law practice will really come from the heart, will come from your spirit, and the stress of the type of job, career you've chosen will be balanced and managed, I think Tai Chi practice is a lot like hindsight. When you're in the moment, you're in it, and you are delineating one thing or another. But if you let your practice fall behind, it will rear its ugly head and bite you in the ass. It's a big wake-up call. Yeah, so just keep practicing.
I will. Thank you.
So thank you all. It was good to see you all and good to see some new faces. And thank you so much, Justin.
Any suggestions
for helping me on my journey?
Any suggestions for future topics?
Future topics? Anybody? We'll have to get back to you.
I have one.
Oh,
Justin.
Linda's ready.
I have one, Justin, because we didn't talk about it tonight. The thing I raised earlier from Sis's initial question, which is the balance. I think this is a really big question. It's a really valuable one to explore, which is the balance between the health practice and the martial arts, and how different teachers and experience that and instruct around those aspects of our teaching.
Well, this was I finally shut up and listened, and it was fascinating. I learned a lot. I don't really recall Master Zhang as being that sweet all the time, but I think he probably had different expectations for me. I remember a lot of garbage Tai Chis and a lot of frustration on his part, but I think he had greater expectations because I was a teacher and an organizer. But it is nice to listen to all those beautiful stories, and he has been quite a great guy. But let's continue meeting together and sharing what we have, and hopefully giving each other the interest and support and opportunities to continue to progress. So I'll think of something. We could maybe do health. That would be another thing. I'd be interested. I bet everybody here has had some health challenge that in some way, shape, or form was met by their Tai Chi and Qigong practice. I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you a real short one. In January, I fractured my shoulder and tore my rotator cuff in 3 places, and naturally healed it completely in 6 months instead of 2 years.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So, Tai Chi is self-healing. Qigong, they're integrated, but there are differences. So, do both. Do it all. Just do it all. Michael, I don't know if you're on or off, but I'll send Michael an email about getting everybody's, and if you could send your Zoom teaching schedules to Michael, maybe he can post that for people. And then we can all stay connected a little bit more and more and more. So thank you all.
Don't forget that all these programs are recorded, so you can play them back again and listen to them.
Okay.
Really?
Now you know.
How do we access that?
You're talking to the wrong person. Michael has figured it out. We'll get that. So that's a good idea. For those people who really want to continue this, let's get a list or I don't know, whatever. I'm not very computer kind of guy, but let's get a way of communicating with each other because Michael, some of his stuff is on YouTube. He has his own channel, and that might lead you into some of what he's doing. But other than that, hopefully we can stay together and continue to progress and learn from each other.
Great. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Everyone come off mute for a minute so we can all bye everyone. So good to see you
all. Thank you so much. That's great.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Take care.
Yes. Stay safe, everybody.
Love you.
Bye, you guys. Love you all.
Love you guys.
Oh, Alyssa.
Bye. Take care.
Alyssa. Sure.
Yeah.
Alice, yay. Mark, I haven't seen you in ages. Mark. And Morris was there for a while.